Welcome back to What Brought You Here Today. On today's episode, I sit down with Lindsay, a registered social worker and owner of Wave Wellness Therapy in Ontario, Canada. If you listened to the previous episode with Your Human Therapist, Lindsay and I met through their therapist book club. In this episode, we talk about Lindsay's mental health journey, her passions as a therapist, including internal family systems and walk and talk therapy. This is also Lindsay's first time on a podcast. How cool is that? Our conversation was so wonderful and informative. I hope you all enjoy it. Let's settle in and let's dive into what brought you here today. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to What Brought You Here Today. My name is Ryan, and I am joined by a fellow therapist named Lindsay. Her and I met through, a book club for therapists that we both stumbled upon through Instagram. If you listen to the previous episode, I did that with Your Human Therapist, which is who the book club is through. And that is how Lindsay and I have connected and really just kept talking through social media. So welcome, Lindsay. I'm happy you're here.
Thanks. I'm so excited. This is my first experience with podcasting, so I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, you've never done a podcast before?
No, never.
I get to be the first one.
Yep.
I'm so honored.
Yep.
Thank you. This is so exciting.
It is.
Well, it's just going to be a casual conversation. We're just going to talk about mental health and see where it goes. So no pressure. No, don't worry about anything. But why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, maybe your background, what you currently do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a therapist in a really small community in Midland, Ontario, Canada. I do work virtually though, so I see clients from all over the province, which is really cool. I've been working in the field now for about a decade. I started out doing more agency work, working in like primary care settings. From there, I went and worked in a ton of different hospitals. I've kind of been around the block in the mental health world. Like I've done a bit of everything from like working with like treatment resistant schizophrenia down to working with like babies and new mamas and postpartum and everything. So I've kind of done it all, but always I knew I was going to end up in private practice and I love it. I'm so obsessed with it. I'm really passionate about it. And being my own boss was never something that I thought I was ever going to do, but here I am 4 years later. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I get to work with lots of really interesting people and yeah, it's a bit about me.
What is your license?
I'm a registered social worker is my designation.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what did your education look like getting there? Because I know it's probably different for the US path than
It is.
Canada.
I feel like you guys have so many more loops to jump through than we do as far as like licensing and whatnot. That being said, like so for psychotherapists, I think they have a lot more hours and licensing and whatnot to do. But for social workers, you do your undergrad, you can go on to do your master's. Undergrad is 4 years. There are some like shorter programs, but mine was 4 years. And then the master's programs are usually about a year long. So you just do your education, you apply to your college, they accept your application, and then you're registered. So there's no like, I think now I feel like things are changing now. I feel like there's more of an exam, maybe, or there was talks of that happening, but I don't know if that's like fully in place yet. I feel like such a dinosaur. I don't know what's going on in the world now.
So did you do it like an internship, a practicum? Did you?
Yeah, in the last year of my program, we spent the majority of our time in a practicum setting. I
Okay.
worked in an agency where we did a lot of court diversion for people who had been like who have charges and things like that. So that was really interesting. I got to be in the courtroom a lot of the time. And so that was kind of my first kind of, I guess, job, but unpaid. Yeah, practicum experience in the field.
Okay, that's so cool. When I was finishing up my undergrad, I was convinced I was going to go into forensic psychology
Oh
and
yeah.
do jury selection. I
Oh.
had this massive idea in my head that I was going to like help with jury selection and work on these serious cases. And here I am working with children.
So different, so different.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of my career was like that too. I had applied over 100 times, I'm sure, to a hospital, and I thought that was the place I was going to end up in my career. I thought if I could just get in there, my life is set. Like, it's like
Mhm.
everything would be great. And I did get a job there and I worked there for a few years and it was not what I expected at all. It was a difficult environment to work in and it gave me the push to go in the direction that I truly knew I wanted to. So things happen for a reason, right?
Yeah, definitely. So are you required to do continuing education and keep up on your registration? Yeah.
Yeah, so you're expected to do, yeah, continued education, continued training in order to, like, if you ever were to get audited by your college, you have to prove that you were still keeping up with your competencies and skills and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so different. And I mean, the United States, you jump through 1,000 hoops and have years and years and years of school after your undergrad.
Yeah, it's a little different here. I mean, like, I mean, part of my education definitely prepared me for my career, but most of what prepared me for my career was the training that came after and the experience that came after. Like, all of the training I have now wasn't something I did in my undergrad. It was things I paid for outside of my undergrad afterwards that gave me the
Okay.
specialized skills that I have. But that's not really, I mean, the college doesn't really give you an outline of like exactly the trainings you have to do. It's more of like, what's your interest? What do you want to get trained in? So yeah,
Oh,
it's a little
interesting.
different. Yeah.
Very interesting. Why did you decide to become a therapist or social worker by trade?
Yeah. I've always seen myself going into a helping career, like, even as a young child, like, I knew that that would be the route I would go. I've always just been a really great listener and, like, really had a lot of empathy for people. Like many, there's a lot of things that went on in my childhood that I think shaped the person I am and made me wanna help others. So, that played a role for sure. When I was in university, I lost my dad to cancer, and before that, I was a bit lost in university. I really wasn't sure which path I was gonna take. Like, I knew I was going into a helping profession, but I was kind of lost. I was, like, really wasn't focused on my studies. I was just kind of going through the motions, and then once after he passed away, it got my head on straight and gave me actually a lot of clarity on, like, what I needed to do, and I went into the social work program then. I spent 6 years in university, so I did other things before I went into the social work program. So that really, like, gave me the clarity and I think the drive to pursue what I wanted to or like, give me the clarity around what I wanted to do.
What was your initial plan when you went to university?
I was never going to university. I actually started out in college, which, like, I don't know how it is in the States, but, like, college and university is really like, they're sort of viewed differently here in some ways. Like, universities can be much more expensive and they just offer different programs, right? So, I never thought I had the intelligence to go to university. Not a lot of people in my family went to university. I didn't really have a lot of push from my parents to go and achieve, like, massive things or great things. They were just like, "Whatever you wanna do, just go and do it." I was like, "Well, I don't know what that is." But when I went to college first. I did a year at a college, and I was a terrible student. Like, I was a terrible high school student, actually, I should say. And I think a lot of my family didn't think I was gonna make it through even the first year at college, and that again gave me the drive to, like, "I'm gonna prove you wrong," and I really excelled in that program, and I'd met with a guidance counselor that year at the school, and I was like, "I don't know what the next step is gonna be." It was just a one-year certificate program at a college, and just by talking with him and just, like, exploring my own strengths, and he's like, "I really think that you should go into the social work program at the university in town," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not university material, though, like, that's not me." But because I pushed myself so hard that year in college, I had great grades, I had really high marks, so I applied and I actually ended up getting in with a scholarship, so that was
Amazing.
really cool. Yeah, so and then I think I let it go to my head a little too much for the first couple of years. Just yeah, I was like, "Maybe I'm a lot smarter than I think, and I don't have to apply myself." But yeah, then after yeah, once my dad got sick and things like that, like, things really changed. We're all pretty young when we go to school, and like, it's a big idea to have to manage, like, what you're gonna do for the rest of your life and all of that, so, yeah, that's kinda how I got to where I am, or through the education path anyways.
I think maybe we have similar stories with our dads passing away from cancer.
Oh,
Do you mind if we talk about it a little bit?
yeah, of course, yeah. He got sick in, oh gosh, 2009, I think. 2009, because he passed away in 2011. He had stage 3 lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when he found out he was sick. I was probably 21 at the time, 21 or 22, something like that, and it progressed pretty quickly. He did a lot of treatments. He did chemo, he did radiation, he did another round of chemo, like, he did a lot as far as treatment, and I feel the treatments, like, made him more sick, like, just because of the symptoms of all the medications he was on, and then he ended up passing away in December of 2011, and yeah, it was awful to watch him be sick, but he lived in the same town I did when I went to university. He was in London, Ontario, and that's where I was. So, I got to share that with him, and people were like, "Well, that sounds awful doing," but for me, it was really special, actually, like, getting to be there for your father and, in a different role and capacity, it's something I would never trade. Like, we got so close during that time and learned so much about each other and, got to show love in such a meaningful way. It was really special.
Were you close before that and this just made it that
Yeah,
much closer?
we were pretty close before, like, we would go for dinners pretty regularly. His thing was, like, chicken wings and beer, and that's kind of like a ritual that my sister and I still do on, like, anniversaries and birthdays and things like that. So, we were close, but this really, like, drove us much closer, for sure.
So similarly, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in the spring of 2010. I was 25. Yeah, 25. And then he passed away very quickly, about 6 weeks after his diagnosis. It was very advanced, very aggressive. But that kind of also shot me into the trajectory of I'm going to be a therapist and I'm going to help other people. And I feel like you're never prepared for that, right? And even now, still 13 years later, it feels surreal. I don't know if you experience that too.
All the time. Yeah, it's hard to believe that so much time has passed, yet it feels like so much time has passed. Like, it's such a weird thing to wrap your mind around because you think about that person all the time. It's always on your mind, right? And it's hard to believe that you haven't seen that person in so long. And it never feels fully real in some ways. Like, you go through waves with it, don't you? Like, you go through ebbs and flows with it. I agree. It can feel very surreal.
Yeah, there's times where I almost forget, like, oh, yep, he's not here.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. But I'm curious how that has kind of shaped your work in this field early on and how it continues to do that, like continues to shape or change your work as you go through the waves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it, like, softens me in some ways, like, allows me to be a bit, more empathetic and compassionate for people who have gone through loss. I really do, enjoy working with clients who have experienced grief and not just with, the death of somebody, but, losses in other ways as well. Like, I can really relate. I have a lot of empathy for that area. It gives me much more softness and understanding around that in my career. Yeah. I don't know that I could ever, like, there's a part of me at one point thought maybe, I would go and work directly with people who are living with cancer and provide support to them in that way. I don't know that I'm quite there or if that's still really an interest for me anymore, but I thought that would be rewarding at some point in my life. But now that I'm working privately, I don't know, things have changed a little, but I don't know. I think that would be a whole new level, I think, for me as far as, like, understanding my own grief and that's the thing, like, with this work is you get to heal while helping others at the same time. Like, as you help other people reach new parts of their journey, you too get to do a lot of reflection on the things that come up, right? It's they paths kind of run parallel in some ways, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're helping somebody else work through something, and then you're hearing them sort of, reflect back or give you their point of view, and then you can kind of understand it from that point of view as well. I don't know. I always find that working in this field, like, yeah, it just kind of shapes who you are, as like it shapes in your healing journey and shapes like your journey as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think there have been many clients that have there's been a mutual help, like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
reciprocation of we've kind of helped each other as we've processed these really big life changes and transitions. And I feel like that's such a beautiful thing that we don't acknowledge
Yeah.
enough in this work.
Totally.
What are your thoughts being in private practice around like self-disclosure, and do you share some of these details?
Yeah. I think self-disclosure is a useful tool, and when it's appropriate, right? Like when it's appropriate. But you know, uh, I don't love always having this like strong like power dynamic over a client. I like it to feel really collaborative. I like to show my humanness and my normalness. I think this is, like very important in therapy. I think really old school traditional models are much more, the therapist would be very cold and kind of just nods along and, has this sort of presence and power about them, but that just never really resonated with me. Even when I've been in therapy, like I much preferred working with therapists that are very real with me and very human and normalized the therapy process. So that definitely is really important to me when I'm working with clients, like just being human. And yeah, of course you have to be mindful about what you're sharing because it's not about you, right? It has to
Mm.
benefit the client. Whatever you're sharing, it must benefit them like above anything else. And you can't do any harm. Like you can't share something with someone and think, okay, it's going to benefit them, but this is a pretty like traumatic thing. You don't want to cause any harm to them either, of course. So you do have to be mindful, but I think it's a very useful tool that, you kind of got to lean into at times.
Yeah, I think we're maybe ushering in a new generation of therapists who feel more confident and accepted acting and being humans, acting like and being humans.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, maybe that's because that's what I like. I attract that sort of those sort of friends and fellow therapists and the accounts that I follow online as well. But that's definitely what I see is a lot more of a human approach, a lot more of an organic, natural formed relationship versus this like hierarchy or powerful position, sort of reserved person. It just doesn't feel right to me. You're dealing with people's most vulnerable parts. Like you're dealing with such sensitive topics for people. If I were on the other side and I have been, like you don't want somebody who's just, stoic and no expression and you want somebody to feel like they're there with you and that means being human and showing your emotion as well.
Yeah, I can't even count the amount of times I've cried in a session with clients.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's
Been there.
and I think being heavily emotional by default, it it's extra cryy sometimes, but
Yeah.
I think I try to, the being human piece, I always tell some of my clients like we're just like yes, therapist and client, but we can also be like this conversation can be like friends in a coffee shop. Like we don't there's no hierarchy. We are two equals. I am here to support you and guide you,
Mhm.
but I want you to feel that comfort that you feel of talking with a friend in a coffee shop so that we can move
Yes.
through some of this.
Yes, I agree that the comfort of that environment in the therapy session, I agree. That's what I strive for as well. I think yeah, that's well said.
Has there ever been a time that self-disclosure or maybe anything has backfired on you in a session?
No, I wouldn't say so. There was a time when I was first working for another private practice. When I first started out in this work, I was an independent contractor for another practice. And one of my clients found me online. She found me on Instagram. And at the time, my account wasn't really a therapy account. I was doing a lot of fitness coaching at the time. And she found me that way. And she had some questions for me about like my Instagram and the things I was sharing on there at the time. I don't think we weren't a good match. Like it wasn't a good fit. I would say that was probably the only time where it was a quote problem, I guess, but I don't know. My mindset has really shifted around Instagram and social media and how you show up on there. Like, I think I was made to feel really ashamed by my superiors throughout my career about social media and messages like, if you work in this field, you shouldn't have social media. You shouldn't be posting things like those are messages that I think a lot of us used to get anyways. But I think I don't know, that feels really stifling, and it feels like I'm allowed to have a voice, and I'm allowed to have opinions, and I'm allowed to show up exactly as I am. Of course, you have to think about, like, how is this going to be viewed by other people? But when you stifle your own voice and when you feel like you can't say the things that are on your mind, that really like burns out your candle. It really does. It burns out your energy. I have found that anyways. It burns your energy, it burns your passion when you feel like you're silenced in a way. So it's actually been really important for me to continue to have a social media presence through this because it allows me to connect with so many wonderful people like yourself and the book club and everything especially working virtually, like I need the connections online,
Right.
like, it's been so important, so,
Right.
yeah.
I think with that too, that's not the message we want to send to our clients or even to people. Our job is to empower people to use their voice and
Yes.
to share their experiences. So,
Yeah,
what a backwards message
totally. I totally agree.
that
Yeah,
was given. And I've also been given that same message before of, well, you can't post that. I
yeah,
can do whatever I want.
yeah.
Like,
I know. I know, it is such a backwards message, and I try to remind myself of that when I'm sharing something a bit more vulnerable or talking about a sensitive issue, like, I would want other people to feel empowered to talk about these things, and I have to role model that. I have to. Like, it's important not only for me and, like, my own peace of mind that I share this or my own feelings of being in alignment, but I want other people to know it's okay to talk about these things without their feeling like they're gonna be judged or shamed.
I think I've seen on your stories lately, you've been talking about parts work and different parts. I want, I love parts work. I
Too.
need to do a bigger deep dive into it. And most of my past years kind of really been focused on the somatic aspect of it and really the physical connection between the mind and the body. But I would love your therapist personal take on parts work.
Yeah. I'm obsessed with IFS and parts work. I've, like, made it my mission that I want to consume every bit of information on this theory as much as I can take in. I'm obsessed. And I would say that I parts work, IFS, is somatic work because you're locating the part in your body, you're finding where it is, you're feeling it, and I would say that's a somatic practice. And initially, when I started doing the work with clients, like, 2 things, I felt uncomfortable initially because it's such a different model, right? I'm so used
Yeah.
to I practiced from a CBT lens for a long time.
We should
Um
probably tell people what IFS is. So IFS is
Oh,
internal
yes.
family systems,
Yeah,
and it's very baseline broken down. It's the model or theory that we all have different parts who play different roles.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We're multifaceted, we're not just mono-minded, we have multiple parts made up in our mind, much like a family system. So, it's a wonderful model. It was developed in the '80s, actually through doing counseling work. Richard Schwartz was actually developed this model based upon his work and hearing people mention things like, "Part of me feels like this, and another part of me feels like this," and it's just really fascinating work. And I actually found out that he consulted on the movie Inside Out.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really great.
He's
But
a
yeah,
funny guy.
so yes. But
He's
yeah, when
such
it
a, he's
first
like so straight and direct.
yeah,
And I don't know what I was listening to, but he was like talking about developing this model and how it kind of just came to be through his own work. And he's like, nobody can argue it. And I don't care at this point if anybody argues it. Like it is
yeah,
here and it's here to stay. And I was like,
yeah,
what a great mindset to have of like you have created this thing that has already done a lot for a lot of people and continues to have an impact. And you're just like, I did this, nobody can change it. It's here. My work
mhm,
here is done. Like, good
yeah,
for you, Dick Schwartz.
yeah. Well, you think when he developed the model, that was in the 80s. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, that was just 20 years ago. But actually, in fact, no, it's more like 40-ish years ago. Oh, crap. My brain hasn't caught up with what year it is, but
It's a very new model.
it is really, if you think about it. Like, I only have heard about it for the first time a few years ago and only did training on it more recently this year. And I just became obsessed with it. It makes sense to me. It's non-pathologizing. It doesn't make the client feel as though they're it's you're the problem, or this is wrong or this is bad. It's let's explore. Let's see what's going on. Let's see why this part's holding on. And I love it. I love it. I was a little, like, just nervous myself doing it for the first time, like, how's a client gonna respond to this? Because it's such a different model, and then, yeah, worried, like, what their reactions would be, but every time I do a parts session with a client, they're left with, "I feel lighter. I feel like that part of me that was taking up so much space in my body is, like, shrunken down now. It's not leading anymore." And every time we do this work, it's so transformational. Like, the reflection that can come after a session like that is, like, it changes their perspective on so many things because they were able to, like, tap into their inner wisdom and those inner parts, right? It's really fantastic work, and I haven't seen this much success with, I mean, I've seen it success with clients, but this model in such a short time has been so changing for clients. And I've only been working with it for a few months now. And I wish I would have gotten trained in it sooner because I mean, just to give that, to people, that healing. But yeah, I'm obsessed.
Your whole energy shifted when we started talking about it. And you were like happy, but you can tell that you're passionate and really love and believe in this model and the power that it has in healing and helping people in their journey.
Yeah.
And I
It's
think that's amazing when you find that one thing that just sticks and you're like, this is good.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've, like, wanted to just learn everything I can about it and, like, just become the expert in it. It's something I feel really passionate about, and I wish it was something that I learned much sooner in my career, like I said, because it's been so transformational for clients, and I would like to do it on myself. Like, I would like to have a therapy session done with parts for myself because I think that's important too, right? You have to, if you're gonna do something or teach something to somebody, I think you need to have the, self experience. So that's something I haven't yet done, but I will. I will.
I started reading his book. Have you read his book?
No. No bad parts.
Yeah. And there's a lot of self-directed exercises in there.
Yeah, I have done some of the self-directed exercises, but I
It's not
would
the
love
same.
to do it in a session with somebody else guiding me through it. That way I could truly just not be. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And not
But
maybe not be the one having to like read and process and think.
exactly.
Someone just
Yeah.
guide you through that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand
turn
it.
off the thinking brain and just be the
Yeah.
observer and yeah.
How do you explain IFS and parts work to your clients? You're like, we're gonna do this
Mhm.
really weird different thing. It's great.
I usually ask them to tell me what they think of the name. What does that sound like to you? Internal family systems, and they come up with lots of different explanations, and then from there I go into, well, it's kind of like that, but in fact, it's actually the idea that we have within us a family system. We have many parts that make up a system. And our parts, when they carry burdens and traumas and pain and heavy emotions, they can act out in extreme ways. If they're not updated or if they're not taught how to behave differently, they can sometimes behave like the age in which they took on the trauma or the burden. And we just have to talk with it and get to know it, befriend it, and update them a little bit. So I try not to give them always, like, too much information at first because then they feel like they have to retain it all and become the expert in it. That's not at all how I want anybody to feel when they come into a session, that they need to know all the lingo and, you know, what's a manager and then what's a, firefighter and an exile. Like, we'll just develop that over time, but I do like to give some education on what we're doing I mean, of course, like, informed consent. But I think it's important just to give, like, a bit of a snapshot around the idea of the model instead of getting into too much of the nitty-gritty, which can be just developed over time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
How do you think parts work has maybe changed your practice from typical standard CBT? But
Yeah,
cognitive,
it's so different because parts work has the notion that there are no bad parts, right? There are no bad parts, even the parts that may act in ways that are unfavorable, like being very controlling or being the people pleaser, or even in more the firefighter parts that can act in really impulsive or addictive or reckless ways. There's a reason why they're behaving the way they are, and it's often for protection. And CBT, and I still do love some of the tools in CBT, but I found it very I don't love the notion of the way you're thinking is wrong or negative, or like I think there's much more of an explanation behind it than to just say that this thinking is wrong and here's the right way to think. That for me leaves out so much more information. And that's what I love about the parts work is you get to explore so much more of it all. You get to really like it's so much more on a deeper level, like, it's and I think we all are are needing that. Like, we have so much in our life that is so superficial and artificial and not a lot of connection, and this model, I really feel allows people to, like, connect so much more to themselves, and we need that so much right now. We feel so disconnected from ourselves for so many reasons, like, comparing ourselves to other people, trying to be this, trying to be that, and this model really lets you to just come back into your body and not feel like everything about you is wrong because you're already made to feel like so much of you is wrong in our world. So I think this model is just so great for that reason.
yeah, I love it. And I feel like you just described it so beautifully.
Oh,
And
thank
we
you.
just get to come back into our own body
Yeah, yeah,
and not be inhabited by all of the pieces and the layers and the parts and feel lighter in the end. And I think that's really important. It's a really important component of trauma work too, and being able to acknowledge and accept and process and move through trauma
yeah,
because we know that trauma is stored in the body, but also being able to heal some of the parts that are extra holding on to the trauma.
for
Right.
sure. Yeah. For a lot of people with trauma, they have difficulty being in their body because it feels so unsafe. It feels so unsafe. So you really have to be mindful of where a client is at in their own journey of, you know, whether or not they feel safe to go into this work. You have to go slow sometimes. Everybody's different. Every parts session or IFS session that I've done, it's very different. Like everybody has a different experience with it and a different outcome with it. Like it's so different just based on people's like nervous systems and where they are in their own emotions and connection or disconnection from their body. It's all been very unique, which is really exciting for a therapist as well to get to see this diversity, it keeps the work for me really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why my focus was more on the body scan and the physical aspects of getting people to even know that they were feeling certain sensations in their body because they're so disconnected from it that they aren't even necessarily aware that, oh, when I have anxiety, I have a stomach ache, that they're connected, or I get
Mhm.
headaches, or whatever the symptom is. Or when I think about this certain thing, my left foot twitches, whatever it
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah.
And really being able to help them make that connection and then move through it in a different way and kind of release it that way. Um, I'm going to have to just start reading some more books on IFS.
Yeah. And I wanna
I
go
have
back
so
and
many.
say I wanna go back and say something too about CBT because there are lots of great somatic practices. Mindfulness is a component of CBT and it's a component of DBT. So I wanna say that, CBT isn't all bad and not at all. Just professionally speaking, I have felt very limited by it, certain aspects of it anyways. I do value it. I have so much training in CBT, but I like to I'm enjoying the expansion of my skills. I'm enjoying learning and growing and evolving, and, if I expect my clients to continue to grow, I too, as a therapist, have to as well, but yeah, I just wanted to go back and say that for a second, like, not all CBT is bad, but there's just just feel it, like, professionally when you've been doing this work for so long, you just feel like when a model is it's just not hitting the mark, it's not getting you the client as far as you would like it to. That's just how I have felt.
I agree with that too. And I think most people just talking, we just talk it out and then you leave after your 50 minutes is up. And then you come back and you just talk it out. But there are other options like IFS and somatic work and DBT, which is heavily skills based, and EMDR for kind of rewiring and reprocessing certain life events. And I, I just think it's really important that people maybe start to understand that we do more. Yes, we talk, but it's so much more than that.
Hmm. It is. Yeah. And as a therapist, you have to really, like, in order to not burn out in this career, you have to be doing work that you feel passionate about, you feel excited about. You can't just do the work because it's the model that, everybody wants to go with or this or that. I just personally know and professionally know since getting the training in this and practicing it that it's really rejuvenated me in a lot of ways. It's given me a lot more excitement for the work. And yeah, just seeing the gifts that it gives my clients is great. I
That's
love it.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So speaking of other therapy modalities, you do walk and talk therapy now.
Yes, yes.
Tell me.
Well, actually, I haven't had an actual walk and talk therapy session with a client yet. I've launched the program. It's
Okay.
like it's getting up and running. It was a lot more to set up than I thought it would be. A lot more. And then like while also still doing all the other things like running the business and seeing my own clients and all of that. But I did a course for it. I did, a course in walk and talk ecotherapy and learned so much about, like, the evidence behind it and the science behind it, and it just all made sense from, like, an evidence point of view. But then I thought about my own personal experience when I'm out in nature, when I'm walking, how I feel while I'm doing it and how I feel after I'm doing it. And the people probably think it's such an odd time of year to launch something like this, like, we're going into winter, but, like,
Perfect time.
this is the time when you need to be outside. Like, we're all outside much more in the summer months here, in Canada and the US, it's much warmer, but in the fall and winter, we go into hibernation mode, right? We stay inside, and part of that is okay because we are a bit more, we wanna just slow things down, but it's been shown that if we can get some sunlight and daylight and fresh air during these months, it can have a really big impact on our mood and our energy and our focus. So yeah, that's a bit about why I've done it. Yeah.
Did this stem from the conversation with Daniel Mate in Bookside?
No, I had been thinking about it before
Okay.
then, but then I loved hearing that that's been his experience with clients when he's done work with, what does he call his work? He had a funny little name for it.
Well, it's on his website.
Is
It's
it like brain chiropractor? A brain chiropractor or something like that?
he is
A mental chiro.
mental chiropractor.
Yeah.
Mental.
It was so fun on that podcast or on the book club.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, and there's a couple therapists locally here that offer it, and I've reached out to a couple of them and asked, like, what their experience were like, and everybody's loved it, and since I launched it and put the word out online, like, people are really interested in it, so it's it's going to be happening very soon in the near future, but, like, the first few sessions too, like, you can't really do walk and talk therapy to start. There's a lot of intake stuff to go through. There's a lot of, like,
Okay.
background, historical information. So my walk and talk clients, that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just doing a lot of the background stuff and intake stuff, but now we'll get out onto some of the trails locally here in the near
Yeah.
future.
I need to know where you did the training from. So I'll ask you about that on the side, or you can tell me
Okay.
now. But I'm very curious. So I do, being in Minnesota, it is also cold and maybe similar to Ontario. But all through the spring and summer and even fall, I take my clients for walks. And our office is in a beautiful, like, wooded nature area. So there's nice trails, but I'm, and I always have found that it is very successful taking someone outside on a walk. I'm a firm believer that nature heals,
Yeah.
but I'm very curious to learn more of the science behind it and the actual dive into the research and ways to more incorporate the nature aspects versus just walking and talking.
Yeah, there's a lot of great sort of like breathing and grounding techniques you can guide your clients through either to start or end the session. You can do some scaling questions with them too, like rate their anxiety or rate their stress level before and after you begin, like before you start and when you finish. And there's lots of great things you can do within the session to kind of just set the tone as well. And people also feel there's a study that was done, I think particularly for men, where they feel a lot less intimidated or threatened, or they're able to be more open and vulnerable when walking because you're not face to face or eye to eye with someone, you're side by side. So people are able to be a bit more vulnerable when they just feel someone walking beside them. So they're much more likely to open up and be a bit more, yeah, vulnerable in a walk and talk therapy session. Your brain also works so much differently when you're
Yeah.
walking. You'll think about things differently. You will be more likely to see solutions. You won't be so problem focused. Yeah, there's lots of great research on it. I can share some of that with you after.
Yeah, I love that. And I
Yeah.
think just from my experience too, it also takes almost them out of their anxious brain because of the
Totally.
movement. And
Hmm.
they're just able to focus and more coherently
Yeah.
talk through things
Yeah.
in a cohesive way, which is really cool. And I have one client who I've been seeing a year and a half now, and we walk every time.
Oh, I love that.
And it's probably like the third session, and she's a college student, and that she shows up bundled up when it's winter, and she shows up ready to go in the summer. And we just know that when she's on my schedule, we are going walking unless it's raining, because no. But and it's
Yeah.
so great, and she loves it. It's great for her health. I love it. I love getting outside in the middle of my day. Um, but yeah, I'm just really curious about the science behind it. Uh,
Well, it all just makes sense too, doesn't it? You
yeah.
think about how you feel when you walk and how you feel being in nature. There's some really great trails around the area too. I wish I could have gotten this program up and running a little sooner because the fall colors are so beautiful. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they're still here, but like we're coming to the tail end of it all. But winter walking, I think, will be so beautiful too. I'm not shy about getting out in the cold either. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
I listened to a podcast about a woman. I should see if I can find it and send it to you and maybe link it in the show notes. But she started walking every day like 6 years ago. And she's every day, rain or shine or snow or sleet or hail. She has all the gear. She goes out and she's retired and she just walks until she's done walking and then walks back home. And she's put on thousands of miles. And she talks about her experience and how her mental health has improved and her physical health has improved and how everybody around her has noticed this, and she's never missed a day.
Wow,
Like,
that's
even in
incredible.
her sickness, like, if she is sick, she still just, like, fully bundles and does a shorter walk, but she gets out and does it every day. I have to find this podcast. I'm gonna make it up because it was kind of, like, life-changing in a way of people here's the deal, Lindsay. I like to think that I am, like, super dedicated and have the drive to do something like that.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like I will try and I will fall off because life happens and I don't have the capacity to get back on.
Mhm. I agree. I think following through with something like that would be so difficult, especially on the harder days if you're ill or whatnot.
Yeah,
Part of me wanting to do walk and talk therapy is partly selfish in a way because I would like to get out and walk more throughout the day. I sit so much for work and the another reason is I haven't worked in person for 3 years. I've worked virtually now for over 3 years, I think.
long
And yeah, I thought and so this is a way of working in person with some clients without the overhead cost of an office. So,
yeah.
it kinda kills 2 birds with 1 stone in that way. It'd be nice to be in person with some folks again.
Yeah. There was a day this summer, it was just gorgeous out, and I took all of my clients for a walk and looked at my watch at the end of the day and I accidentally had walked like 14 miles. Oh my God. It was like maybe I can't take every client for walks.
Yeah, yeah.
But
My
the
goal
nice
would be
days are
my
so
goal would be
fleeting.
yeah, exactly. My goal would be 2 a day, like
Yeah.
start a session and then end a session because I have to be able to get back to do my virtual sessions, but my goal would be 2 a day. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. What do you want people to know about mental health?
I
Big
know.
picture, small picture.
What do I want people to know? That your brain's not broken, I think. Your brain is not broken. It's not you're not it's not a flaw in you. This isn't, your brain, isn't failing you in some way. That there's a reason why you feel the way you do. And it all makes sense. It's all valid. It all makes sense why you feel the way you do. We all have mental health on some spectrum. We all have some, mental distress in some way, especially right now, like what's going on in the world and our economy and everything. So I think that's an important message is you're not broken. And I think again, coming back to the parts work, why I love that so much, because it has the message that you have no bad parts. It's non pathologizing.
Yeah, I love that message. And as someone who works a lot with children and parents, that is a message I feel like I need on a t-shirt.
Mm,
Your child is not broken. My role as a therapist is not to fix them because there's nothing to fix. And I feel like that goes across the board, across all humans.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. Hmm.
Okay, we are just about ready to wrap up.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you one final question.
Okay. Okay.
If no one knew what you did for the rest of your life, what would you do?
Oh, yeah. I still think I'd be in mental health or wellness in some way. Maybe it would be more I would love to do like live speaking. Like I would love to do that kind of thing, like live public speaking, podcasting. Like I would love to do more discussion based work. I would love to do more education and training and coaching on like a bigger scale. I would get away. I love doing individual work, but I would be doing just a little bit less of it so that I could work on other projects. I still think I'd work in this space. I love it. That's probably what I would do, I think. Yeah. I used to dance and I always thought I'd become a dancer when I was a child. And I don't know if I could ever do that for a career, but I do miss it though. Maybe I need
Yeah.
to get back into some like adult dance classes or something.
Oh, that would be fun. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah. How would you answer that? Would you do something different?
No,
No.
I think I would, if no one knew, I think that I would spend a lot of my time doing maybe more advocacy and volunteer work
Mm,
and maybe some political stuff around just like mental health access and reducing the stigma. But that all feels very daunting.
mm,
Regardless, I have no political education. I would have no
yeah.
idea even where to start. But I think if I could do it and nobody would there, I feel like a big part of it is like feeling judged for stepping into a political space,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And trying to get advocacy on a bigger level. But if I could just spend my time going around and volunteering and speaking about the mental health world, I would love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Service work like that, volunteering it's so meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. I think just helpers in general, like we are born helpers and that is our role in life. Regardless of what the
Totally
capacity,
agree.
regardless of the capacity, we just want to help however we can.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like it wasn't a choice career for me. It was like, and I know a lot of people feel this way, like it was like there was no other path. Like this was I had to do that. Like I had to go this way. It's like a life mission, I guess. I don't know how you want to word it, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful conversation we've had. It's
Oh,
been
thanks.
fun.
It was so fun. I'm so glad we did this.
Yes, me too. Well, I just want to thank you for being here. And we're going to link a few things in the show notes. I think I'll ask Lindsay maybe to give me if there's just some like baseline education that people can look at if
Sure,
they
yeah.
want to learn more about IFS, and we can put that in the show notes. And then this will come out. But I do just want to thank you for being here. It was such a
Thanks.
pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I'm so glad I got to be your first podcast.
Me too. Yeah, that was so fun. I loved it.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Lindsay and I had such a great time talking about all things mental health related. If you are in Canada and interested in scheduling with Lindsay or following her on social media, you can find the links in the show notes. Again, thank you for your support and listening, and I hope you have a beautiful day.